Welcome to the Performance Portfolio Podcast with Coop and Coop. Greg Cooper is the owner of Cooper Performance Coaching and lead instructor at Kodakwai Judo Club in Edmonton, Alberta. He is on the lifelong pursuit of helping others increase their performance. Cooper Allen is a top financial advisor from Barrie, Ontario, whose focus is empowering everyday families with advice, leadership, and tools that we should have been given in school. Together, they bridge the gap between performance and finance to help you create your own robust performance portfolio. With that, let's get into today's episode.
Coop, we've taken a 2-week hiatus, which is very unlike us, but we've both been hammering it. March has been a incredibly efficient month, I'll say, and an incredibly rewarding month for both of us in our own right. But we're back, and we got 2 episodes coming up here that I think are going to be full of value and really impactful. So what are we tackling the next couple weeks and today?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm glad you said efficient and not busy because
Never.
everyone is busy in their own right. But we're gonna do a 2-part series, you guys. So first one is I'm gonna quiz Greg on what are some misconceptions about the performance world, so he can do some myth busting. And then episode 2, he's gonna come back in the same realm with me with the financial world. I know we've done a lot of episodes where you've got both the performance lens and the financial lens on specific topics, but we haven't really isolated one yet for each of us individually to be able to showcase our expertise. So yeah, that's what we're diving deep into, and we didn't really prep for this. So Greg, I'm curious to see if the questions I ask or the rabbit holes that we go down are where you expected to go, or if we end up somewhere else.
Man, here's the thing about prepping for these things. I look back at I can't say podcast career. I've just done a lot of podcasts, so have you, and we've done, different speaking things. Personally, I've never been a guy to take notes or have a speech written out. I just have a couple jot notes and I go off feel and go off the flow of it. And I think that, talking to our friends that listen to our podcast, I think that's a lot of the feedback they get. It's not scripted. It's just a conversation. We're friends. We want to talk about whatever topic we're going to talk about, and then we just flow with it. So I think the less prepared we are, sometimes the better the podcast. We're episode 20, I think this will be. And, I look at the ones where I was like, yeah, I prepped too much for that one. I was too ready. And the ones that are off the cuff, just a text the day before or the morning of, where it's like, hey, let's talk about this today. Sure. So with that being said, unprepared as per usual. I'm going to take a little caveat on that. You can be unprepared if you have the background, the knowledge, and the experience in an area. And I think what we're talking about, we have that. So if you need to prepare for something in your perceived area of expertise or work, are you really that passionate about it?
Yeah, and there's a huge difference between, for me especially, when we had guests on the podcast, I prepared a ton.
For
Did a lot
sure.
of research. Hey, what questions am I asking them? In the case of Josh Kosnick, read his book ahead of time so that we could go deeper there. Obviously, if you were going to be a financial client of mine, there'd be tons of preparedness. Likewise, if I was a performance client of yours, there'd be a ton of preparedness ahead of time.
For sure. And again, different modalities. And thank you for pointing that out so people don't look at me like an idiot. This is why. This is why we're friends, man. You're smarter than me. But yeah, being prepared for that stuff is always important. Being prepared to train, to talk to a new client, an existing client. Josh, a great example, because yeah, same thing. I know you did it before. I did it. I took his the 4 bridges test on where we are, or 5 bridges, sorry, on where we are. And it was a cool experience to take that and then be able to ask him questions on man, so I did did the aptitude test and it was really great. And then we had something to talk about because it was about him, not about like the topic per se.
Absolutely. So I'll start with it kind of an easy one, but I think a common misconception for uh, the regular everyday listener is what would you say to people who think that the world of performance or performance coaching is specifically for athletes? And if you're not an athlete, then it's not only is it not for you, but there's not really much you can learn from the space at all.
I used to say, well, you should know that everybody should have a coach. Look at the best guys in the world, they have a coach. And that now I look at that as a very lazy answer because it doesn't give anything. But the people that view performance coaching as only for athletes or only for extremely high net worth people, it's exactly that. It's a misconception because what needs to happen for a person to receive any coaching is a mindset shift or even if before they make a mindset shift, because that is another thing that gets said lots. But shifting your mindset is a Herculean task to do by yourself, let alone to do with a coach or with people that are close in your circle. It's tough. The way that your mind works is unique to you, and to be able to shift that for the better is tough. So it's shifting your perspective of what performance is. Performance is how you perform in your specific field of play. Easiest to conceptualize when we talk about sports. Well, what's high performance in sports? Well, that's the Super Bowl. That's gold medal at provincials, at nationals. It's a results driven area, field of play. Podium or not, championship or not. Okay, so now that we're thinking about that, you're a I'm trying to think of a of a industry that is maybe less conducive to it. Uh, you're a chef outside of the Michelin star level chefs, where that is a very trackable thing of performance. Why would they need a performance coach? Well, it's not about your ability to cut perfect cuts every time. It's about your ability to perform as a team member, as a leader, as a person. So performance for people outside of the sports world is a multitude of different things. But the perception is, okay, so I'm a chef, I'm a sous chef or a line cook at Cooper's restaurant in Edmonton, Alberta. I want to own my own restaurant. Okay, so now we've created a performance metric. That is your championship. Well, how do you get there? Well, you need to perform as an incredible leader on your team, go from being a line cook to a sous chef to the head chef. You need to build a reputation within the restaurant community inside that city or inside the province, inside your state, potentially your country. Okay, so now you're getting recognized. Now you got to go off and work at a new restaurant and get more experience with new people to show that you can work as a leader elsewhere. Okay, now you've built up enough financial stability and you've now created a stepping stone, a path from this is where I am, this is where I want to be. This is a path of performance. That individual, any individual who has that or thinks that they have a path that they were willing to go down, is a person that is suited for performance coaching.
On that note, where do you draw the line between, and now I'm getting kind of out of your world and into something that's familiar but not your niche per se, but where do you draw the line between performance coaching and life coaching?
This is a fantastic question. I think about this often. The lines get blurred and they need to, I think. If in the performance coaching world, in the coaching world, any coach that truly imparts value into their clients, into their athletes, into the people they are coaching, if they're not putting on a life coach hat at sometimes, they're missing a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. Because it's not just what's happening in the field of play that we're focusing on. I'll continue to use the chef example. Okay, so as the performance coach for that chef, you've now created a very focused person in that field. In the kitchen, they're locked in. Nothing can phase them, nothing can go wrong. They know exactly where they're going. But what that can create is monsters in the sense that now you've created a hyper fixated person so much on their goals. And there are times where being selfish like that is very important and necessary in the path of performance, in the path of pursuit of goals. But now they don't have a social life. Their girlfriend, their wife is getting no time with them. Their kids are getting no time with them. Yes, there's going to be sacrifices on a path of growth, but now, whether that's visible or not, it is actually dragging their performance down because the field of play, the kitchen in this example, is their escape. There, it seems like nothing matters and they shut off. As soon as they go home, it's negative, negative, negative because they missed little Billy's soccer game. They missed 6 date nights in a row with their girlfriend or wife. They are cold. They're emotionally exhausted when they get to that place where they're supposed to be safe. They're supposed to be dad. They're supposed to be fun and loving. So you need to acknowledge that too. You got to be careful because coaches aren't therapists unless you are a therapist and a coach. But you need to dip in to that life coach area when appropriate and when necessary because it is a big piece of the puzzle.
One of the things that we talked about, we had a personal development conference back in February, and one of the speakers had brought up a point of, and this is what brought me to the life coach versus performance coach question, is they said, the joy from the future of life is based on enough personal development and moral virtue where people can depend on you. And yeah, to your point, Greg, there is that part of the performance lens is regardless of what you're chasing, your duty in this life is to protect and provide. But there's different ways to protect and provide. So yes, there's an element of put your head down, focus on the goal, achieve the level of freedom and peace that you need to for your family. But then also having some non-negotiables of what am I willing to sacrifice along the way and what am I not willing to sacrifice along the way, and having that conversation up front instead of negotiating throughout the process, I would say is important so that your performance coach does not become your therapist and the conversations are, how do I optimize, not is it worth it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like briefly, how I go about avoiding falling into any specific rabbit hole, I pillar my coaching into kind of 3 areas of everybody's life. Now, yes, some people have very robust lives that have different areas, but if we really distill it down, there's 3 we need to focus on. You have your profession, you have your personal life, and you have your passion. Sometimes passion and purpose overlap, but when we really get into it, all 3 overlap. And what I have all my clients do is I have a graphic, a sheet that they look at, and it's a triangle. And it has those three areas: personal, professional, passion. And I get them to write 3 to 5 strengths in that area. Okay, as a chef, what is your number 1 strength? When it's a profession or a passion, they go instantly, they know. I'm super precise. I communicate with my team and they bang it out. They go to their passion. A lot of the times it happens to be a sport or a hobby or another job they have, their entrepreneur side of things, if that is what they have. Bang, again. And then they go personal. Maybe one of the things they're really good at. Oh, I'm the funny guy in the friend group. I'm the fun guy. Okay, what else? And now it makes people think because people don't like talking about themselves in that sense. But then When we do get all those strengths, it's like, great. So when you are getting too focused on your goals in your profession, why aren't you drawing your empathy and your fun guy side from your personal life? They're not separate. We have separated them, but they're not mutually exclusive. Pull from that. When you're getting too leader, too rough and tough, too pigeonhole focused, remember that you are an empathetic, fun loving guy and bring that in. So then we start creating this loop of like, oh, yeah, I have these strengths that I can pull from elsewhere. So that's one. Yeah, I need to dip into that life coach side to unlock and get them to share that information. But then it's back to performance. Like, oh, that's how it works.
What percentage of people do you think outside of the goal actually understand the mission? And what I mean by that is if you pulled 100 people from the streets off to the side and said, hey, within 3 clicks or less on your phone, could you get me to a document that details who am I, what do I believe in, what am I looking for in life? And they've got their core values, their standards, their belief systems, just who they are at their core, written somewhere easily accessible.
Very
Like,
few.
would it even be 1 in 100?
Mhm. If you went into, no, I don't even think if you went into like the top sports leagues in the world, it'd be 1 in 100. And people, and I might be wrong there, but I say that because when you're truly great at something, when you know that's like, when you have that feeling where I was put on the earth to do this thing, it is easy to get complacent in, well, I'm getting close to my goals, I'm achieving them. Yeah, but how? But why? What are the steps you've been taking? I just do my thing. And this is why the greats in their sports, Wayne Gretzky, can't coach. Shows a thing, nobody can do it like him. You suck. Why aren't you like me? And it is very easy for people that have the talent, the drive, the technical skill, the hard work attitude to bridge that gap of, well, yeah, I'm getting closer to my goal every day. Like I'm podiuming every tournament this year. Okay, how? Why? What's changed? Last year you missed every podium. Yeah, I'm just getting better. So I don't think a lot of people can bridge that gap and show you what the mission is. They know their goal. It's very easy to write a goal down and know it, and to chase after it. But a lot of times it's random. And because they're not writing things down and because they think they can keep everything in their head and remember it and remember the process, eventually that's going to fizzle out.
That okay, so that goes into my I'll come back to that, but that goes to the next question is can somebody not track their progress and still achieve their goal or become successful at all? Or was it if that happens, it's just complete fluke, complete accident because they're not tracking it?
Great phrasing on that. Absolutely. For sure. You can absolutely achieve your goals and be the most successful without writing things down and without tracking things. For sure. I would be a liar and I would lose all credibility if I said otherwise. That being said, it's scientifically proven. You increase the likelihood of achieving the things that you want to achieve, your goals, your successes, your biggest aspirations in life by writing them down consistently, daily, weekly, even once a month. Because you're putting that pen to paper, you're really putting it down. And then you have something that you can refer back to. Or you have a planning sheet. You have something you can refer back to. The example, and I'm going to go back into the athlete world here because this is something that anybody can understand because everybody can understand fitness and working out. If you just go to the gym and do random things every day, especially if you don't have um, a long time duration of being in the gym, you're going to get stronger, you're going to lose a little fat, and you're going to get more fit for sure because you're doing things that you weren't before. But then you're going to hit a point where you're not getting those quote unquote new guy gains. And then you're going to get frustrated because you're going to hit those plateaus or those walls where you're not breaking through. Yes, because you weren't tracking anything. So you didn't know where you started. You actually don't know where you're at because you just put a random couple plates on each side or you do random jumps and there's no method to the madness. You'll get strong. You might even achieve your goals. But if you went in every day with a plan, even when you deviate from that plan, you went, okay, last week I was benching 135. Okay, I'm going to try to increase that 5% this week. Oh, I did increase that 5% this week. Okay, great. Next week, I've increased it 5%. Didn't get the rep range that I wanted. Okay, so now I need to work more at that range. And then next week, let's try. Oh, okay, now I hit that next increase because you know where you were at and you know where you left off. And the same can be said about any goal that you have. And especially with intangible goals. Tangible goals are easy to or easier to get to when you're not in the case of if you're not tracking them, can you get them? But if you have intangible goals, like I want to create a positive impact in everybody around me in my life, my 5 closest people or people that I coach, that's a very intangible thing if you just try to get there willy-nilly. Okay, so how do you start tracking that? So the more intangible goal, the less likely you're to achieve it if you don't track things. Long story short, short story long.
Yeah. So my summary from that is track things. That's it. Write them down. Have a system. And on that note, when you are tracking things as well, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would imagine it makes it harder to cut a corner. And I think that's part of why people don't want to track things. They say it's monotonous. I'm not a data entry person. And well, one of the things in the military, one of the phrases is amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. This is something that's logistical. That's not low level admin. It's important grow and scale your life admin and logistics. And I think a lot of the reason that people adopt the mindset of it's minor, it doesn't really matter, it's a waste of time. If I was going to do it, I'd hire out for it, or it's tacky, or it's whatever, is, well, if I'm not tracking it, or I don't have a coach, or I don't have an app, or I don't have a system, then I can cut a corner, and the only person that's ever going to know is me. So, do you see that a lot in the performance world where people think that they can cut a corner so long as no one sees it, but realistically, people do end up seeing it?
Yes. Yes, we do. Yeah, coach, I'm going to the gym. I'm doing my lifts. Cool. Why isn't your number updated on the sheet? Oh, no, you weren't there and the other guys weren't there, so it didn't count. But I'm doing it. Okay, cool. I can't wait to do physical testing when we do it with the whole team. We'll see. And that example is like with my youth athletes because you got to keep on kids. You know, kids, especially male athletes, they are going to be in the gym, but them going to the gym when they're unsupervised and don't have a plan and they're not tracking things for our male audience and for our female audience. You've seen boys in the gym in high school. I don't care. They're ego lifting. Oh, cute girls walking by. Time to do curls, boys. Like, right? So, but to go back to your point there, Coop. Like, yeah, it's human nature to want to cut corners. When you have a goal, no matter what that goal is, you want to get there as fast as humanly possible. Yeah, I think I could cut this corner. But then what that creates, especially when you're not tracking things, is a loop of cutting corners. Well, now you've cut every corner. And now you are back to square one, or maybe you've worked yourself backwards because in cutting those corners, you've missed critical steps. Even if they were small things that seemed insurmountable at the time, that would have made a huge difference. And in any field, for every person that cuts a corner, for every 10 people that cuts a corner, the one guy that doesn't, his progress perceivably might be a slower path, but he's going to get there in the end, and he's going to be able to sustain that success in the end. Cutting corners might get you there once, twice even, but not over a long duration of your career, of your sport, of your aspiration. Eventually you'll fizzle out because those cut corners will show.
I also think that it just comes back to integrity with and not even with a larger group, sure for the team and for your family, but what about just with yourself? Like if you got to put your head on the pillow and know what it is that you did, I think the challenge that we see when it comes not to mental illness, but with the mental health challenges in our world, and I will always distinguish between the two. Because there's a lot of people with poor mental health that do not have a mental illness and try to lump themselves in the same bucket. But specifically with mental health, people chase comfort over happiness, confusing them as the same thing. And the first pillar to me of happiness is integrity. The peace of mind is the cost of making good decisions. That's your cost. So if you see that as a cost, then don't make any good decisions. If you see it as a reward, make good decisions. Stop cutting corners. And if we just the only reason to cut a corner is unless I'm missing something, the only reason to cut corner is for your own comfort or your ego.
Pretty much. I'm going to indirectly myth bust the thing that you said too there about integrity. Because I think a lot of people, when they look at performance coaching or just coaching in general, they think it's based around, well, you gain that integrity from that coach or the accountability piece of it, right? Oh, well, that's the biggest reason you get a coach. Sure, but it's not given, and it's not a given that that's going to be a product of it. I've had lots of people pay me that couldn't care less about the accountability, that couldn't care less of what I thought. Now, a portion of that potentially is because I didn't give them enough value. But when I look at when I had coaches and I still have coaches, but when I was younger competing, I would get so disappointed in myself when I fell short of a goal I had because I felt I let my coach down. But the only reason I felt I let my coach down is because they provided me such impactful value and care. They genuinely cared about who I was, what my goals were, and they did everything they could to help me get there. And that is how I try to be with every one of my clients, whether it's a performance client, whether it's a person in the business side of things, whether it's one of my athletes. If I don't show them that due care, if I don't, acknowledge the small things that, oh, they love to go watch that TV show, or they love to do XYZ hobby, that's their decompression time. Or, we have a little banter back and forth, and we have an inside joke, especially with the athletes. That stuff matters. Then, and only then, does the accountability actually come into play. Because I can't expect to hold somebody accountable if they don't trust and respect my opinion. Because I need to give them that trust and respect too. I need to trust and respect them as an athlete, as a client, as a person. And when that happens in a coach-client relationship, coach-athlete relationship, then yes, the accountability matters, because then a coach will get a text. Oh my God, I am so sorry. I didn't send you the sheet that we were supposed to work on, or I didn't send you my numbers. And they try to justify what happened and go, hey, it's life. It's fine. Hit it again tomorrow. I'm not going anywhere. We have time to do these things. But that's a big misconception. People think, "Oh, I'm just paying you to keep me accountable." Yeah, I can do all the tools. I can text you every morning. I can send you my own personal power list. I can send you every document that you need to do. I can send you reminders. I can send you calendar invites. But if you don't care and trust and respect my opinion, it doesn't exist. You don't give a shit. You'll just forget, or you'll not prioritize it.
And psychologically, once your brain is fully developed, and some studies say 16, some say 25, but let's call it that 16 to 25 range. Once you're past that age, the only way to actually drive meaningful change in someone is not through information. It has to be through an emotional event. So if you're coming to a coach for accountability or you're coming to a coach for information, you've kind of already lost. That coach needs to be there to help you drive meaningful change, which means the information is not, well, how do I do this lift properly? Or how do I set up this system in my business? It's how do I point out the consequences of not doing that? Ed Milet talked about this on his podcast. Andy Reid, the NFL coach, he lost a bunch of weight the past couple of years. Why? Well, it's not because he doesn't like eating. It's because when he goes to his doctors and they say, "Hey, dude, you got to cut this out or you're not going to live to see your grandkid's wedding." Well, that becomes a little bit more important to him than what he's putting on his plate. So there needs to be some sort of emotional change. That's what you need a coach for. And we need to get back to, it's funny, there's so many organizations that are like, yeah, we have like military-like brotherhood, military-like culture. It's like, first of all, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
You just don't. There's nothing you can do in the corporate world to facilitate knowing that the guy to your right and the guy to your left is willing to take a bullet for you. Actually, not in theory, actually.
Mhm.
There's nothing you could do in corporate. If you want even 1% of that, though, the conversation that you're not having, that you need to be having is, when was the last time you went into a team setting with whether it's your work team or your sports team, and you actually did peer-to-peer evaluations and ranked people? If there's 10 people, who's 1, who's 10? And you could do it anonymously or you could do it publicly. But you took the information as feedback, not as an insult. Because the reality is, and this ties back to the coaching thing, is you're not a loser because of the information. You're a loser if you get the information and you do nothing with it. And to me, that's where a coach needs to have those hard conversations with people.
Mhm.
They drive the emotional conversations that create change and give you the information that you hear when your ego probably doesn't want to hear it, but your goals require you to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that, Coop. And I'm going to rephrase something you said, just for the listeners. If you go to a coach for information, that's not wrong. That's correct. It happens lots. But how that relationship or how that interaction unfolds will tell you a lot about if that coach wants to work with you or has the capacity to work with you. Because if somebody comes to me, whatever it is, and they go, "Well, what should I do?" I have to be very careful with that sentence. Because should gives me the opportunity to tell them what I would do and how I would do things. That might work, but it can be very quickly unsuccessful. So when somebody comes to me with that question, or they're purely coming to me for information, for that quick fix, that quick answer, I flip it and go, "Well, why is it important to you? Why do you need that information? What will that help you achieve?" When a coach gives you those answers back to a question like that, that is a very big indicator that they're actually interested in helping you. They're interested in your goals and they see some potential in you. Not saying that if they do say, "Well, what I would do," because I do that as well. And if I do say that, I always preface it. Now, that has worked for me in the past. This may not work for you. So let's dig into this a little deeper. Because maybe that person is very much like me. And when I do have a connection with that with clients, where I see a lot of parallels with the way we think, the way they carry their lives, the path they've been on in their own right. Okay, well, actually, yeah. The thing that I did when I was in that phase or trying to achieve what they're trying to achieve, that's actually going to be a great place for them to start. But then you still have to give them ownership on what they're doing. You can't say you have to do it step one, two, three, four, five. No, no, no. Start with step one and then go on your own path. But when a coach doesn't do that and when they're only feeding back information and giving you those quick fixes, it doesn't make them a bad coach. It just, again, is probably not going to be a very long-term coaching relationship with that individual.
Awesome. On that note, stay tuned for a future episode of what to look for in a coach and what to look for in a financial advisor. Because that's the obvious next question to that, but that's a 45-minute answer. So we'll make an episode of that. We know in in both of our worlds, there are recruiting and multi-level elements to coaching and to financial advising. And you could come across one viral reel on TikTok or Instagram and think that this person knows their stuff. And I know even Greg, before you and I met, we spent some time both vetting one another. And yeah, we built a relationship, sure, but it was also, well, what's your background? And I know there's an old quote in personal development around just being worried about where people are going and not where they've been. Well, sure, I guess, but at the same time, I'd like to know some of your past, not because I need to judge you like crazy, but I need to get a baseline on should I partner with this person in business or should I be willing to take them on as a client or should I do a podcast with them or should I invest their money or whatever the case may be. So I think that would be a really fruitful discussion in helping people narrow in on if I'm going to work with someone or partner with someone, what should I look for? But that aside, Greg, any kind of closing thoughts or anything you wish I would have asked that that you really think our audience needs to hear?
I'm just debating whether I should say this. So if I'm debating it, I'm going to say it. Coaches are people too. They are not perfect. It is okay to disagree with your coach. It is okay to think that they're full of shit sometimes. It is okay to challenge what they put onto you. I give somebody maybe a bit of a knee jerk or a bit of an elbow up, front, and I challenge what they say, and I know that it's going to incite some emotion in them. I'm doing that for a reason. I'm not just doing it to be a jerk because a good coach will tell you what you need to hear. And you said this, and I love that you brought it up. It's not about what you want to hear, it's what you need to hear. And the younger a client, and my youngest clients are athletes, you got to be careful with that. But as a client, as the athlete, you can challenge your coach. They're not almighty. They're not untouchable. And if they carry themselves that way, and if, outside of the reverence you hold in some people, I revere some of my coaches to the highest level, but I would still challenge them. And I do. And that is okay. You can push back. And if your coach, when you do push back on them, they blow up and they come after you, that tells you everything you need to know about the relationship that was there because it wasn't. So in a client-coach relationship, it is okay to push back and challenge. It's not a one-way street. If it is, get out, find a new coach. Because especially in the world of sports, I know a lot of athletes that have ended their career sooner because they had a terrible coach, verbally abusive, unfortunately sometimes physically abusive, and a lot of other things. Like there can be a big power dynamic shift there. And the good thing about that is I see it less and less in all aspects of the coaching world, which is really good. If it's not a positive relationship, then it's not going to be a relationship that helps you grow. Challenging, yes, that is a necessary piece of it. That's the name of the game. I'm the coach in this relationship. I'm going to challenge you every time we talk, not to hurt your feelings, not to cut you down, to build you up and help you achieve what you're trying to achieve. But yeah, people need to know that it's okay to challenge your coach and to push back sometimes.
Yeah, and I saw this recently. It was about parenting, but it applies to exactly what you just said on coaching is uh, when kids are younger, they idolize their parents, and they get a little bit older, then they demonize them. Then they get a little bit older, and then they humanize them. And the challenge with the coaching world seems to be that a lot of people haven't figured out how to humanize them. They'll either idolize or they'll demonize. I
Yeah.
want to work with this person because of how many followers they have on Instagram. I want to work with this trainer because of their six pack. Uh, what about humanizing them? What about meeting them where they're at and having some compassion and just enough of an intrigue as a human to say, I'm going to get to know this person and see what I can learn from them, regardless of the idolization metrics that don't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. So I
Yeah.
think if we could live in a world, even outside of coaching and parenting, where instead of idolizing people and demonizing people, we just humanize them, there'd be a lot more compassion, a lot more empathy, a lot more understanding. Because at the end of the day, and especially people that are in financial advising for the right reasons and in coaching and leadership roles for the right reasons, all we're trying to do is make the world a better place and help one person at a time.
Man, that's a mic drop there. I love that. And it is. And I'll end off with this so we don't run this too long, but and I think that's something that I see in coaches and I know I try to do every day as a coach. I always try to find that thing that can connect on that very interpersonal level, whether it's a little inside joke I have with a client or an athlete, especially with my athletes, because they're kids. They're all kids, man. And but with even with my professional clients, some are much older than me. It's finding that connection, that thing outside of the field of play that we can laugh about, because that is nothing is more humanizing than something personal and meaningful to that person. And having a joke, keeping a fun environment. Fun is so important. And if you can have fun with the people you're talking to, especially your coach, that's going to be a great relationship, and you're going to create a lot of success from it.
Absolutely. Awesome, Greg. Well, hey, I appreciate your perspective this week. And if there's any performance coaches listening that agree, disagree, or somewhere in between, let us know. And if you guys got some value, obviously drop a comment, like, share, let us know what you want to hear, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll see you guys next week.
Awesome, Coop. This was a fun one, and yeah, for all of our listeners, like, subscribe, share. Check your inboxes over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be sending some notes. This podcast isn't just about Coop and I sharing our knowledge. It's about helping people where they're at. So for all of our listeners that do like, subscribe, share, and do that, I'll be throwing out an offer for free consult from me or from Coop in our own right, financial consult if you're looking for Coop. If you're looking for the performance side, I can help you with that or with any PT stuff. So if you're helping our show grow, we'll help you grow.